stay at home on 9 to 5, raising your babies with joy and pride. A real ass mom, you're a real ass mom. Taking care of business. Ooh, girl, you're resilient. Cause you're a real ass mom. A real ass mom.
Welcome to the Real Mama Pod.
I'm your host, Devin.
And I'm your host, Kendra.
We are real moms.
Sharing real experiences. The things people don't tell you.
Hey, Mama, hey.
Hi, Mama. How are you?
This is like, why do you keep hi, Mama, and me? It's hey, Mama, hey. Okay? Get your intro
Hey,
right.
Mama. Hey, I can say hi, Mama.
I don't like that. It's like
I
you
can
don't
say
know
both.
me. It's like we're not best friends.
I
like,
can
no.
say both.
I like hey, Mama,
Hey, Mama. Hey.
Thank you.
You can hi, Mama, me back.
Hi, Mama.
Okay.
Girl,
Hey, Mama, hey.
we got a guest. Is she trying to show out? No.
Right.
Hi, Mama, me.
No, I ain't showing out.
Okay, how you doing, friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful.
You're wonderful. Why are
Yes.
you wonderful?
We have a bomb-ass guest today, so I'm wonderful.
That's why you're wonderful?
Yeah, I'm super excited to dig in and tell the world about our guest.
Yes.
They already know her.
Right, the world literally
Yeah.
does.
Yeah,
I mean,
seriously.
I'm excited to talk to this special guest too.
Yes. So we have Safira St. Fort, and if you don't know her, you will get to know her, and you're gonna absolutely fall in love with her. She is a high-end hat designer, y'all, and when y'all see her hats, like I really want. It's on my wish list. I already told you, like, get your money up because I'm buying one of these hats.
Beautiful
Okay?
hats.
So I am saving up to get my hat, and the next time we have her on, I'm going to be wearing her hat.
Okay.
We are claiming that. But no, for real, like, her work is just amazing. We met through a line sister years ago because she did some work in Haiti while my line sister and I were doing some work. And so we became like Instagram friends. And she is just an amazing mama, very creative. Like, and I just cannot wait to get to know more about her. So everyone, welcome Safira.
Welcome, Safira.
Hi, thank you guys. Thank you, Devin. That was a beautiful introduction. You got me over here blushing.
Oh, you blush on, girl.
Yes, and she's
blush
so
on.
beautiful, y'all. Oh my gosh.
She is
Thank
so gorgeous. So,
Thank
Safira, can you briefly tell us your journey to mamahood?
Ooh, my journey into motherhood, which I was actually in New York. I was like 1 year or 2 years out of art school. And I was kind of just like doing a lot of freelance work, helping other designers, with like Fashion Week. Um, and it was Men's Week Fashion Week, February 2017. And I was like running up some stairs and I was like, there's shortness. I'm having like this weird shortness of breath, and this is not me. Like I'm usually like jetting it and I'm fine and I still have energy. Um, and I just started getting very like tired soon. So I was like, you know what? Let me go figure out what's going on. Long story short, found out I was pregnant during Men's Week Fashion Week in New York City. I decided to like, kind of have a chill pregnancy, take on some more classes. My fiance at the time had just moved. So we probably he moved in December, it was around February, January, February. So we literally probably had like 2 months living with each other before I got pregnant during Fashion Week. It was insane. Um, but that was like my introduction, like working Fashion Week, having shortness of breath, and just finding out I was pregnant. And once I found out I was pregnant, I kind of wanted to like take the easy route because working in New York City for any designer, um, is really hectic. Like everything is like super aggressive because everything is last minute, everything is expensive, everything is like it's just insane. And I was like, I don't want to bear that. Like, I don't want to bear that kind of like work or stress. And it's not my work. It's not my design. So I took like some specialty classes at FIT and I kind of just did that like my entire pregnancy. I would like, my fiance at the time was like, just stay home, do you focus on your brand. And I had started my brand in 2014 when I started art school, but I hadn't been really pushing things to sell. Um, really because I wasn't really confident, right? I wasn't really confident in my work. And then once I got pregnant, I took these special tech classes at FIT. That's when I started producing work that actually went up for sale. And yeah, so my introduction to motherhood was actually my true introduction. I feel like my laboring into Saint Fort brand too as well.
Wow, I
So
love
you
that. That's
birthed two
beautiful.
things.
Yeah.
Two babies. You birthed two babies. We
Right.
have twins.
Right.
Right.
Honestly.
Yes, I'm here for it.
So what? Okay, so you talked about the birth of Saint Ford. What made you come up with these dope concepts? Like I've never seen anything like your hats before, and I
Thank
consider myself
you.
a fashion girl. I didn't go to fashion school or anything like that, but I love fashion. I'm originally from New York City, so
Oh,
we
nice.
breathe, live, die by fashion, right?
Mhm.
So, like when I saw your brand, I'm just like, this is so innovative, so
Mm-hmm.
modern, so chic, so feminine. Like,
Thank you.
how
Beautiful.
did you come up with this? And then your photography and your models, like everything is just like, oh my gosh.
Chocolate,
Yes.
skin,
Yeah.
Thank you.
pearls, just amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you
so
guys.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So like I feel like my aesthetic has always my origin, like how I show up like within fashion or like self and grace really comes from like my upbringing in like church and like things that I like attended when I was younger that was that fascinated me, right? That didn't really I didn't really think there was any like career or money in, but I was just always fascinated by the first ladies of the church. Like, I was like, I want to be a first lady, but not because they're the pastor's wife. I just want to be a first lady because I like the way I like their St. John suits. I love their big hats. Um, and I think God always comes full circle with things, right? So I was always fascinated by that. Like I even have pictures when I was like 18 wearing big brim hats. Um, and I took an elective in art school, millinery, which is hat making. Very like there's a lot of special like there's a lot of people who take it up, but that's more so of a London trade. So like if I went to London, I would have like listen, I would have been in every store by now, like taking those courses. But that was a goal. That was a goal to actually go to London and actually like take a specialty course on it. But I got pregnant, so it's cool, whatever. Like I'm like just self learning and using YouTube for things to that extent. But so I took that elective, and in that semester, my professor, she was actually like this very old white woman who was just fascinated by hats, but she did traditional hats, like hats that you don't really basically hats you could find anywhere, right? So she was very classic to how to make hats. So she actually like frowned upon me like even wanting to add trimming or add things to hats because that's not traditional, right? She was more so like the fedoras and things like that. But what ended up happening with her, she was great. I lost my best friend that semester and I couldn't finish her class because there was like funeral arrangements and also mentally like I was in no space to finish like my courses. So there were two classes that I had to take like I forgot what exactly what it's called, but a pardon more so. And her class was the first one. And so what they did, what Parsons allowed me to do, was extended into the next year. So what was supposed to be one semester ended up being a year. And on top of that, we had one-on-one sessions. So I got to know her more on an intimate level. She worked with me hands-on one-on-one versus a class setting. And I was like, ooh, I really love hat making. I really like enjoy this. And originally my degree is in fashion design, so I'm supposed to be making like all these gowns and dresses and stuff like that, which I still did, but like the joy really came from hat making. And so that's how like I guess it was formed and founded. And then long story short, like how the pearls came about is honestly I've always loved Chanel growing up, right? And I always like how they always did like small, like, trim embellishments with the pearls to add on, like, the
Classic
fabrics and the
looks.
Yeah.
pads and things in the bags. But I was like, well, what if I exaggerated it? Like, what if I just used 900 pearls? Like, what does that look like? So that's how, like, sort of that kind of formed, and that became like more of the aesthetic of the brand. And I'm still doing it. It's more of a rhythm, is I have to feel it as I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's just the beauty of art.
Yeah.
Because you feel it and you just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you get is what you get.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, like, with regards to even like how the photo shoots go, right? I surround myself around a lot of creatives, so like I would love to take credit for how those photos come out, but realistically, it's being amongst people and their specialties. Like, whether it be a stylist, whether it be a set designer, whether it be a photographer or a makeup artist or a concept creator, like, it's just being amongst people in their specialty, because they could see my hat and understand the power that I felt in making it, or the rhythm I, like, had in making it. It's like when a rapper hears a beat and they already know the words, and but then the producer had to engineer that, but then someone else
Yeah.
had created the sound. Like, meeting people within their specialty to bring forth like your vision or your life, or what you want to, like, people to see and feel. Like, that's how it honestly works, because like I don't think I could verbally explain to someone or a creative the power that I feel, or the rhythm in which I work.
Mm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's your rhythm. It's
Yeah.
Right,
your life.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I feel it, like I know it. Like, it's almost like a mother. Like, you guys know how when something's off with your kid, or they're about to get sick or something like that, there's just something you just like, the father may not know, but you just know, like, and it's really hard to explain that feeling or what that is you feel, but it's very, like, it's your intuition, it's intuitive, like,
Yeah. So, how does it feel to have this successful brand and hear huge celebrities like Beyonce, who's like, it doesn't get any bigger than Beyonce, and Cardi B, like raving about your business? Like, how does that feel?
I mean, it feels good, right? It feels good, but it's also scary too, right? Because it's just like, wait, wait, Beyonce, you picked my business on your, like, you picked my business page, like, and you see the caliber in which Beyonce produced music and albums, and it's very, like, scary, but also very fulfilling, right? It's also very rewarding. It's validating too. I think in any artistry or anything that you take up, when you have someone to that caliber of greatness, I would say it just makes you feel like, okay, this is God given. This is like, I feel it. I feel the validation. I feel the people, like, coming to me, or even like saying like, how do you do this? How does, like, how do you do it? Like, I want to take a class, or I want to learn, or I want to buy every, like, I have people who will buy every hat. I have people who are like, oh, what's new? Like, what's coming? Like, so it's just very validating as an artist, like,
Yes. Because you're that girl. Just say
Right.
it. That was so fitting. I was waiting for you to say that. But you are that girl.
Thank you.
So, so how do you think so many people discovered your brand? Do you think it was the celebrity shout outs, or the celebrities actually wearing your products, or how do you think they discovered you? Friend,
Yes.
it is time to pay some bills.
Yes, because the bills got to get paid.
The bills got
They
to
just
get
have to get paid, all the bills.
So what that means, y'all, we got a sponsor.
Hey, sponsor. Can y'all see we have on our B. Ashley sports shirts?
Yes.
Some of the most comfortable shirts we've worn, like athletic wear.
Yeah, athletic wear.
And she has all the fly sportswear, like for mamas, for ladies, rich aunties, whoever.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend you all pop it into B. Ashley Sportswear's store.
And I don't know if you all remember, so one of our episodes we talked to a working out mama, and B actually came highly recommended.
She did.
So, and this mama works out. Bianca is hardcore. I mean, I don't know if you all remember from her episode.
Yes,
and when we did
our
workout
workouts.
challenge. I mean, she worked out hard in B Ashley and sportswear, and
Here we are.
we got a
Rocking.
sponsor. So, if you're looking for new athletic wear,
Yes, fun,
black owned.
black owned.
We're trying to do
Yes.
black owned businesses
Yes,
for
indeed.
the month of February.
Yes, indeed.
and this falls in that category.
It does, and like we said, it's super comfortable. So go and get your B Ashley sportswear.
Yes, tell her we sent you.
Bye.
Bye.
So even before the whole, buy black, when Beyonce did the buy black thing and had the brand on the website, XYZ, even before that, there was a very strong pull, of people reaching out to me to make the hats, right? It wasn't as notable, but like, honestly, I think again, like going back to working with people in their specialty, the visuals that we had of the hats that were out there were super powerful. Like, when you just see something that's good and feel good and radiates whatever it is that the message that it has, like it's a hat, but then it also feels so powerful. It feels like almost like an armor, a head armor, like, So I think when people feel that, when people can read and dissect art, in whatever form it comes in, then I think it does its work itself. Because there's so many times where like people be like, "Oh my gosh, I saw your hat on someone's head, and I want to order," or "I saw your hat on da da da," like So it just really like when you can deliver a message, I think it would just because like honestly, right? Somebody in Beyonce, well, it was actually Beyonce's stylist, Serena, who actually saw my hats. So somebody had to show her, she had to see the
Right.
visual first,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I think it's honestly that. So
I can definitely see Beyonce in your hats.
me too.
I can see it.
Listen,
can
I'm
see
still
it.
working.
Draped
I'm still
in
working
pearls.
on something that I know she would just die for. Even though I feel like even on her last album, Renaissance, there's another milliner. She's actually based in LA, and that honestly, like, she's great, but I honestly just think because she has access, right? Because a lot of things are produced and run in LA. She just gets, she gets called because she's like the milliner for them. But she's really cool too. She's actually the one who made like that Billy Porter hat that kind of opens up like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so yeah, she's dope. But she did a few hats on the Renaissance album, and I was just looking at them, and I'm just like, I could have done that. But again, it's access, it's time,
Yes.
it's all of those
Godspeed.
things,
Your
and like
time has come in.
right, like I know perfect alignment, perfect timing. I know it will.
Yeah, and where are you located?
I'm actually in Fort Lauderdale, South Florida.
Okay, South Florida. South Florida gets a lot of movement business too. So
Yeah.
your time is coming, honey.
Yes.
And when it comes, we're gonna be ready.
Yes.
Right.
So have you ever had people like question you about your prices? Like, and if you have, like, what do you say to that?
I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're too expensive," or "I can make that," and I'm like, "Okay, sorry, hold on." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine if you think you can make it." And I've had people try to make it. I've seen
Tried.
it,
Yeah, tried, right?
Right, that was the key word.
right. So I mean, I don't budge back on that because like there's a lot to this. Like I think people think like a lot of people think it's just like placing pearls or forming hats and things. There's so much to it that they don't really understand, like composition of a hat, right? Weight of a hat. Even when I'm picking trimmings, making sure my vendors are sending me like the correct trimmings or the right shades of nudes and ivory and whites. Like there's so much that goes into it beyond the physical labor of them. So honestly, like the prices aren't for debate. Like I'll get questions like, "Oh, is there a coupon? Or do you ever run sales?" It's like, no, I don't.
My
I mean,
prices are my prices.
right, like, like I rather I know my head exists already, right? And I would rather know that it exists versus like trying to cop a sale. Like I'm not here to like make you spend money that you don't need to spend, right? I'm here to like give you a piece of art that you could eventually pass down to your kids. Like, like
Yeah.
it's a really special piece. So
It's an
that's why like
investment.
it's like I usually tell like people in description, these are like specialty hats. These are for events like if your maternity shoot, your wedding, your maternity pictures, like things to that extent. So I always tell people these are special items.
Yeah. Two, like they don't go in Louis Vuitton asking for a sale, so don't
Girl,
come
they
over here.
can't,
Right.
They
right?
paying that, and it's not even
Right.
quality
Without
sometimes,
question.
right? So some of the
Right.
stuff is not like real leather and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not
Right.
getting Louis Vuitton at all.
And
I'm
that's
not
what I'm
saying that,
saying. And then like,
but like
they have a whole
you,
team of people working on
right,
it. This is me and one
right,
other person.
right,
Like it's like
and
a
it's
team of two.
handcrafted, handmade with love.
Yes.
Like every
It's
piece
a lot of
of
labor.
bead is hand placed by
Right.
you. Like you can't put a price on
Exactly.
that. So
Exactly.
yeah, okay. So, you are okay. So yes, you are a beautiful mom, right? You're a
Hmm.
great
Hmm.
mom, and then you also have a son who's on the spectrum.
Yes.
So how do you balance your time between being like this diligent hat maker, right, and then being this full time invested mom, because you do a lot of one-on-one things with your son, like you're very
Hmm.
open on your page about that, and I love that, I really
Hmm.
do.
Thank you.
And I see all the hard work you put in with your hats as well, and I'm like, how is she doing this? So
Girl.
how are you doing it?
Yeah, barely doing it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. How am I doing it? So there's a lot of things to that, right? There are two things that really bring me full joy, and it's honestly my brand and my son. Like those are two things that I know if I'm investing, whether it's time or resources in, I really feel high. Like I have like this natural high. Like I feel good about it. Because the progression of Saint Four and the progression of my son, like I said, they're like two babies to me. Like it means everything to me. So what I try to do, right, with my son, when him and I are together, we do a lot of one-on-one time. We run a lot of programs. We do a lot of interactions because his way of learning, right, his way of existing, his way of being is self-taught. Like he literally like is in his own space, in his own world, but I'm trying to implement how we as humans, like typical neurotypical people, function into his day-to-day activities, because again, at the end of the world, he can't exist by himself. Like he has to have, friends, family, mommy, daddy, whatever it is. So what I try to do, right, is I dedicate hours here, and sometimes it gets very frustrating because I want to spend another 2 hours or 3 hours doing this design, or I want to pull an overnighter, but I know I have to get him home, get him ready for bed, run his programs, get him ready for school tomorrow, get his clothes. So there's always that like static. It's always, and in the beginning, I struggled a lot with it because it was just like I'm being too selfish. I'm treating one child better than the other. Like as weird as that sounds, I was doing that, right? So then I started just kind of like daily just saying, "All right, 5:30 I'm done. I have to take him to the park. We got to do our night routine." So I kind of just like strategizing it as like really considering this as a child, St. Ford, and also soul, and prioritizing them, whether it be like I would say equally. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like I'm not even gonna try to front and say like I prioritize soul more than Saint Four because I'll be lying. But it just sounds better to say that. But what I do, because like at the end of the day, like if I'm not doing Saint Four and I'm feeling anxiety, that's gonna show up in how I meet him when we're doing our programs. How much patience I have for him when we're learning potty training and things like that. So what I do too is I do build an army too. At the end of the day, I'm the vessel that brought him into this world. I love him the most out of anybody, I believe. His father will debate me, but but I also create the army too, right? So soul receives therapy. He receives 35 hours of ABA therapy, and he also gets anywhere between 3 to 4 hours of afternoon speech therapy. Um, so how that works is he's with a therapist one on one, independently working on things when I'm not around. So when I'm here at St. Fort, he's with those two therapists. And both of them, I prayed for both of them to find a special type of maternal or nurturing or loving spirit for him, right? That helps him in his development, right? Because when Soul started ABA, he was nonverbal. He was nonverbal. And this his therapist is the one he spends the most time with. She's so amazing with him. She's so patient, and she also carries like this sense of pride with him, like with him speaking, with him being potty training, with him being able to request things he needs and wants, knowing when she first got him, he wasn't saying anything. Like she takes that like it's almost like a badge of honor for her. So what I do is I do pray. My prayer is typically like, God, I want to be selfish in my brand. Like I want to show up for my brand just as much as I show up in motherhood. But sometimes I don't know how to balance it. So create that army for me. Create those beings that also will take him to that level. Like I can't bear all the responsibilities. So he has his therapist. He has two. He has grandma. So grandma is the one who's picking up, dropping off to different therapies, right? So that stuff is delegated. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, his dad takes him and does that. And he's about to start music therapy. So I'm always trying to like find new things and find new programs that I can fit into his schedule. So everything is not so delegated to me, but I still have my time with him in the morning and in the afternoon. Like making sure that's like critical. And then also while I'm working on a new collection with St. Fort, I'm also looking at new programs, new schools, new art schools, new music schools for him too, because I can't just worry about the progression of one and not worry about the progression of, him as well. So it's that it's that balance of like, making sure I'm just always advocating for both and progression.
Yeah,
That.
it's so.
And I loved the transparency and the honesty that you gave us because sometimes things do sound like funny coming out, but it is what it
Yeah.
is, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of parents, if we're all being honest, our jobs are equal to our children.
Yeah.
It sounds bad, right?
Yeah.
But like
And that's the reality
that's
of it.
in order for us to provide food for them, we have to work.
And low key, we spend more hours. Like I hate to say this,
Yeah.
but we really spend more hours.
Daycare has
working
them
than
more than we
we
have.
do.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
so
sad.
that's real.
It's
a
really
perspective.
it's really sad, like, because I feel like that's like all mom stories. I mean, except for like the homemakers who are still at home with the babies, stuff like that. But for like women like us who are like in the working field or trying to make a name for ourselves, right? Our eyes are wider than our moms, our grandmothers, like the things that we want to accomplish, the things that we see other mothers accomplish, right? It's just like, I want to do that too. Like those desires are there. And honestly, I feel like they should also be applauded more. Like, like instead of like, I don't know, like I just feel like there's always like this weird connotation behind mothers who like grind. Like, I don't know why they people always be like, well, who raising their babies? Oh, the grandmother's raising the babies, or this, that, and the third. No, I tell his grandmother all the time, like, listen, I appreciate you, I do, because she's Cuban, so she's very opinionated about things, and sometimes she kind of cross me like left field sometimes. And I'll tell her, I was like, no amount of picking up and dropping off can compare to the work I do when he's with me and when he's not with me, and the work that I'm constantly doing and will still do for him. Um, so like I think people miss that point. People miss that like that power in mothers and like that working moms and serial entrepreneurs or serial mom workers. Like they miss the power of that. So yeah.
That
I
was
mean,
good.
it's still like while we have newer generations, the older generations are still very much so present. So
Yeah.
a lot of these I guess, practices and cultures of what a mother looks like
Mm-hmm.
or is supposed to look like is still, it's like a mesh, and it's
Yeah.
like they sometimes they get along and sometimes they don't.
Yeah,
So
so
Right.
we get that too with recording and stuff. Who got the kids? Their dads.
Yeah.
Who else?
more than
Like,
one parent.
right, I'm not the only parent
Why,
here.
why do people ask that so often? I'm always like,
Like, why are you
Like,
perplexed?
why are you worried about who got
I
watch
ain't
out?
happy by myself.
Right. They
Yes.
have a father who have feet, legs, arms, and a brain.
It
So
was very much so able
Right.
to watch him.
Right.
So, I have a question for you. So, there was an incident in the midst of the pandemic where you and your family, you traveled to a major theme park, and this was all over. I remember seeing this video on social media, and it pissed me off.
Mhm.
But it was an incident where your son was, you all were taking him to this major theme park, and they required him to have a mask on.
Mhm.
He, considering like he's on the spectrum, and it's not always easy for them to do things and socialize the way that we would or do or
Right,
have to.
right. Mhm.
And they essentially turned you all away, right?
Right.
So have you all received an apology for that? Like,
Mhm.
where do we stand with that
because
incident?
I wrote letters too. I wrote them. I did all that because I was.
It was very
Kendra
disheartening.
even helped. Like we both were like,
Oh.
nope.
Yeah, it was very disheartening.
That makes me want to cry because that's so special. Thank you guys. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
So okay, let's play out that scene, right? So the pandemic, right? Masks were required for kids 2 and under at wait, are we not allowed to say this theme park?
Oh,
I mean,
you
you
can't. I
can.
didn't know if
Oh,
you felt comfortable, or we didn't know if you.
because like
Yeah, we didn't know if it
honestly,
was any.
fuck them. So Disney. So Disney. So yeah, so a mask was required. So this is the problem, right? On top of like cognitive disabilities are not protected as much as physical disabilities, right? So if someone's blind, if someone's any form of disabled that's more physically seen, um, they have more rights and more privilege to things. So the thing at Disney, right? My son was probably, I believe he was over 2, but long story short, it's 2 and under. When you walk into Disney, 2 and under are allowed with no mask, right? Because a 2 and under apparently through the CDC doesn't understand the concept of a mask. When you're dealing with a child that's on the spectrum, my son still doesn't understand the concept of Christmas. He doesn't understand the concept of a birthday. Like, he doesn't understand those things, right? Because cognitively, right, physically, he's 5 right now. But cognitively, there are things that don't register to him, especially social things that we celebrate, like Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like, why are we dressed up? Why are we driving 2.5 hours? For him, it's just like, this is a normal day. I wanted to watch what I want to watch. I want to play what I want to watch. And I just exist. I'm a being. Like, so for him, the concept of a mask registered just like it would register for an infant. What is this on my face? So we get to Disney. The lady is like, oh, he needs to wear a mask. And I'm like, no. Like, he's not gonna wear a mask. I know he won't wear a mask. I've always attempted to wear a mask, especially during the pandemic. You want to take your precautions when you're going to especially when it first started. But he won't wear a mask. So again, like, my prayer is like, okay, God protect him, like, in that sense. But I'm not gonna rob him of being or be any sort of paranoid for going anywhere because of this COVID thing. So long story short, they told me no, he needs to wear a mask, and I was like, but if you're not requiring a birth certificate or an ID, why are you paw patrolling my child on a mask? And they're like, oh, well, he's old enough. And I was like, okay, well, if I showed you paperwork and showed you cognitively, at this time, he was nonverbal. Um, if I showed you paperwork, that's because the neurologist prints out paperwork. So like every time he goes in for evaluation, they'll place him on because everything is scalable, right? When a child's on the spectrum, they'll tell you in which level in which he's functioning. And at the time, Soul's paperwork showed 0 months to an 18-month-year-old. So legally, right? If you're saying that two and under, it's a cognitive disability. You should see it as that, right? No. They called manager after manager after manager after manager. There were managers who were actually really afraid to even step into the situation, but long story short, they turned us away. It was very triggering and traumatizing for me because I think that's the hardest part for mothers with kids on the spectrums to deal with is people actually acknowledging what the spectrum is, how these kids show up in that, right? Because the spectrum is wide, like it's so wide. And I would have to say, like, Soul's spectrum is more social than anything, him understanding how we as humans socially interact. But like in regards to like his independencies, like he knows what is what and who is what and what not to do. Like I've never had, like, even when he was younger, I never had a problem with him putting anything in his mouth that wasn't edible. Like he started walking at like 7, 8 months. He was very like he had this very dependency to him. So for me to try to show up as his mother and explain to these people that listen, the concept of a mask, just like you put it on an infant, it will suffocate them and suffocate them to death. That's what he think I'm doing. That's what he thinks I'm doing to him. And they just wouldn't budge. So we laughed that, but that was a big old scene. Like people were like yelling at them, like it was crazy. They had to call security because like people were like, "What are you guys doing? Like, why are you guys doing this to this kid?" Like there were people like standing in the paint with me. Like long story short, but it still very felt defeating because I'm his mother. Like I'm supposed to protect him from this, and honestly. That was just like telling me like what to expect on his journey, like of like people not understanding, but it also taught me a valuable lesson too. That there still needs work to be done in like the Disability Act and civil whatever. So I wrote Disney. I wrote them a letter um, stating that their policy was in violation of the American Disability Act.
It is. It is actually.
Right.
It is.
I wrote the American Disability Act. I told them, hey, a lot of the wording in this, you guys don't really have a vast representation of the autism spectrum disorder and what that really means. Like, if you're not a mother or a parent or a loved one to a child or someone on the spectrum, you really don't understand that concept. And I think those things, when you're making rules and laws, have to go into consideration, just like you require a business to have a ramp for someone in a wheelchair. Just like you require a building to have what's the thing for blind? What's the thing for that blind people need to
Braille.
Real.
right. Like, you guys have to have certain type of requirements. And I kid you not. I even tried to file a civil suit against them. I kid you not. They all wrote me back and stated that because we're in a global pandemic, the CDC overpowers all of that.
Wow.
Overpowers the act.
Right.
Like,
The law, the federal law. Wow, that's crazy.
Long story short, they're like, take your kid to Disney another time.
Wow, that's crazy.
when we're not in a pandemic.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That's
So you
basically
never
what
got
the
an
letter
apology
said.
or anything?
Because I think that speaks to her
No.
point, though. If there was a physical disability and they showed their ass the way they did with that person, that would have been like
all
over the news.
Yep.
It would have been addressed in the way that it should have.
Mhm.
And that speaks more into like we do need to do better about accommodating. Like everyone needs to have proper
Yep.
accommodations
Yeah.
for
Physical or
all disabilities.
But there are laws that's supposed to protect
Right. Like if you go
her,
on
and
the
it
American,
didn't protect her.
right there, if
Yes.
you go on the American Disability Act, it's like you could not, you could
It's
deny,
called
you could not deny
IDA.
injury and
Yes.
things like that to people because of disability. So I'm just like, oh, I'm thinking, boom, I hit like, oh, Disney gonna pay me. Like, I'm thinking I hit like this, like awful. I got this awful experience, but I'm gonna get something. I mean, I did
You
get
wanna
something
get
out of it and
compensated,
the
right?
grand scheme of
Yeah.
thing, but I really thought like I had pull and leverage on this. But long story short, like they literally said in the global, like in any global pandemic, especially if it's to the point of like wellness and illness and stuff like that, the CDC is always gonna like
Well, just don't be open.
But I
That
don't understand. But the thing is with that, my frustration is, what's the difference between a 3 year old and a 2 year
correct.
old wearing a mask?
So
Because
so that
either way, they can get infected by the disease wearing a mask or not.
correct. And so
So that doesn't even make sense. CDC.
right, exactly. That was my whole thing. That's why I was angry, because then I was just like, okay, now why didn't you just stop that family that just walked by and say their kid wasn't old enough? Like, so for me, like, it's still like there's something out of it that, like, I still think there's something more to it, that God wanted me to get, or still wants me to continue to pursue. But I felt really defeated. I felt like I like it was to the point where, like, I called his dad and I was like, hey, I need you to come pick him up, because, like, I really have to process my emotions on all of this, because, like, I'm angry, and I'm angry because I feel like this will be his life if things don't change. But I think the world is progressively, like, moving in a way of, like, really being inclusive, because, like, now majority of shows always have, like, an autistic character or someone on the spectrum that does have social cues that are, like, different from the norm in which we have been programmed and taught to be, right? Um, so there, I still feel like there's something else to it. I just don't know what it is yet, right? Maybe it's not ready to be developed. Maybe I'm not where I need to be for it to come into fruition. Whatever that was. But it was painful. It's still painful. Like, just thinking about, like, me even trying to force a mask over his face. Um, and yeah, like, and no apology, because if they apologize, they're taking on accountability. Of course not. I mean, they refunded me my money, they gave me my money and stuff like that, but they're not gonna, please. Disney will never hold any liability to anything.
Dang, I'm sorry you had to
Yeah, I
experience
know.
Mhm.
that.
That
Mm.
really bothers me. But we're gonna just move on to
Yeah.
positive.
So what's next for St. Ford? Like, are we gonna see you in Fashion Week soon, or like, what are we doing? What's next?
See that? I don't know. I mean, Fashion Week is super expensive to get in. Like, a lot of those, like, a lot of people, what people don't know is, like, a lot of those brands get sponsorship to be even present in Fashion Week, um, with vast and large collections. Um, maybe it will be me hire. What I really, really want, what the ultimate goal for St. Ford is, I want a partnership with Gucci. Like, I want either Gucci to reach out to me and be the lead accessory designer for them, or I work hand in hand with their designers, or even make designs for them. That's what I eventually want to get to, because it's really hard to honestly run a brand where everything is handmade alone, and really kind of reap the benefits of having a factory and a whole entire team. So I feel like right now that's what I'm gearing towards, creating more and more pieces where I can eventually present to, like, the director of Gucci and saying, like, hey, you know.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
speak
that. That's
that.
doable, and so many brands are doing collaborations. So
Yes.
even if y'all collab and you get in the door that way, like,
Hmm.
yes,
We're gonna
I'm
Yeah.
here
speak
for
it
that.
up. We're gonna speak it up.
Yeah, we claiming that. All right, all
Thank you. Listen,
right.
I've
So
been praying on it
That's
for
Sophia,
like 2, 3
yeah,
years.
we're gonna pray on it. We're gonna
yeah.
speak that up,
Go ahead and
girl.
shoot your shot, sis. Just start
Right.
sending them stuff and stuff. I don't know how that works, but just do what you gotta do, girl.
Like, hey, take a
Girl,
look at
I know, I
this.
Right.
know.
Tag them and everything. I'm gonna start
Right.
tagging them whenever she posts them at Gucci. At Gucci. Gucci, you see this? Oh, okay.
I love it. Speaking of tagging, Safira, if people want to know more about St. Ford, about you and your family, where can they find you on social media?
So my brand page is Saint Ford brand page, and that's where you get, like, all the newest things that I'm working on. And then, my regular page is where I do most of the posting about my son. I'll post a few brand stuff and all that. And then pictures of me too, what I have going on. But I do like to keep, like, small snippet TikTok videos of things that I am doing with my son. Because I feel like a lot of mothers do, especially mothers with kids who are on the spectrum, who are in the sense of trying to understand how to deal with their kids, right? Because it's not easy. Like dealing with a child on a spectrum is like there's not a single manual or a single way of doing it, because every kid that's on the spectrum is completely different. Every one of them have different stems, fixations, um, different things. But when I do my videos with Soul, I never encourage mothers to do what I am doing. I am just showing them how it works for me and my son, and figuring out what works for them and their child. So I never want anyone to mirror what I'm doing, but I just want them to see how it works. Like there was a moment where Soul wanted to color on walls, right? Anywhere we went, whether it be a family member, a friend's house, he will find something, because that was just his fixation, like seeing color on white walls. But you know how cringeworthy that is to people. And his dad would tell me, no, don't let him do that. You need to da da this and da da that. And this again before he was verbal. And I was like, no, we'll just buy paint. Or I'll turn my house into a canvas where he could just do it whenever he wants. And if a family member has a problem with me offering to clean the wall or buy paint, we just won't go there anymore. And honestly, what that did was his first words were color. Was like purple, blue, like, because now he's like fixated on getting these crayons. So now I could be like, okay, you want the purple? What color is this, Soul? And that's when the language started forming. So for me, that works, right? But that, like, I always tell mothers, like, do whatever works for you and what they like or their fixations, but allow them to be fixated. Even if someone's telling you, you need to tap them or you need to discipline them or they shouldn't be doing that. No, there's no rules to this. Like, there's no rules to like really parenting a child on the spectrum. You really have to allow them to show you, and then you form your form. You bring in your maternal, like, curating. Like, you figure out like how that works. And now he doesn't draw on the walls anymore. He'll draw on a notebook, but it started with a
Yeah.
wall.
Oh,
He
and
didn't
I
know.
love
He
how
didn't know
you
the
did that
difference.
for him. That was that's great. I'm glad to hear that perspective. That was really
Very touching.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so all that talk about hats and fashion and pearls.
Parenting.
Yes, it's time for some mama juice. So what are you drinking, friend?
Okay, so I'm actually kind of excited about. I love the name of this drink.
Me too.
Yes. So the name of this drink is called Mad Hatter. And it's obviously fitting for Saphira because she is, I guess not in the same terms as like the movies we've seen, but she's a Mad Hatter. Like, she out here making mad hats.
Yeah.
And they're all stunning. And we felt that this name was just perfect for Your Mama Juice.
Yeah.
So I asked Deb and I said, can you ask Saphira what she likes to drink? And Saphira said she likes red wine. So we made a red wine drink. And it has 4 ounces of red wine, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, slices of red pear, and fresh orange slices.
Yeah, it's really good.
And it's just like it's a red wine with all the fixings.
It's my type of drink.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is your type of drink.
It's really good.
And if you're a mama to be, or your mama who doesn't like alcohol,
You're right.
you can have this same drink, but let's use a red sparkling grape juice. So you can add the fresh pear, fresh red pear, fresh orange slices, and have you a Mad Hatter.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Yes.
I love
So hats off.
Hats off.
Or not Shakira. What's not Shakira?
Who's
I'm
Shakira?
thinking of,
I'll
first
make
of all,
that
I have a
tonight.
co-worker named Shakira. I don't know why the hell her name popped up in my head. Saphira. Like, what? Maybe she's talking about me.
Right.
That's what they said. So the next part of our segment of our show is called Mama's Corner. So this is my absolute favorite part of the show. So this is our opportunity to connect with our guests and our listeners. And typically, like, our listeners will write in and ask for advice. Now, we are no experts. We can only speak based on our experience, off of our experiences. So we do have a question. It's pretty short, but I think it's a good question. And usually I try to categorize the questions based on the interview we have.
Mm-hmm.
So this mama wrote in, she said, "Hey mamas, I'm a single mama struggling to find time for myself. Do you all have any tips for me?" So,
That's a good question.
busy mama, okay? You're doing all things.
All the things.
Give us some tips.
Honestly, I got this from another. Oh, there's this book called "We All Deserve to Be Millionaires" by this lady named Rachel. Have you guys heard that? It's really good on Audible.
No, I need to
No,
look
it
it
sounds
up.
like a read that I need
Yeah,
to
right.
put in my library.
Look it up on Audible. She's so good at this. But she was like, start delegating. She said, start delegating tasks. Like it could be as small as, and I co-parent. So understand this, like I co-parent. So like I don't have someone who's physically there every day with me. When it's me, it's me. It's me and mothering by myself. So the other day, we're getting ready for bed and I forgot to pick up pull-ups. And I'm like, ooh, he's gonna wet the bed. I know he is if I don't get pull-ups. Text his dad. I was like, hey, can you Uber some pull-ups? Uber or whatever, some pull-ups. Because I'm that's just too much work. So honestly, delegating tasks, whether it be dinner, whether it be like having to go pick up something that your child needs, delegating that to whether it be the father, a mother, a friend. When all my friends ask me, what do I need for Christmas and things like that, because my son doesn't understand the concept of stuff, I'll say books, I'll say gift cards, I'll say pull-ups, I'll say things that I know are always pressing in the time of when I don't have them, but just having inventory and stock of it and delegating that towards other people. Honestly.
That's real.
Delegation is a good word.
That was good.
Yeah.
I would recommend just using a village. So
Yeah.
delegating tasks, using a village. Like, don't be afraid to like speak up. And when people ask you if you need help, tell them. Be honest.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we are ashamed and don't want to ask and don't want to inconvenience anybody. But if you truly need time for yourself, if people ask if you need help, say yes.
Yeah.
And take them up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both of you have actually said my response. My response was being open with how you feel. Like, saying, I need some time to myself and communicating that to whomever so that you can have that time to yourself. Because in all honesty, we as mothers need me time. Aside from our partners, aside from our children, aside from work, friends, everything. Like, we need that time to ourselves. So, communicate that.
Yeah.
Yes. Communicate.
Yeah.
Well, this was great. Thank you for that question, Mama.
Yes.
And continue to write into Mama's Corner. I love that. I look forward to the emails. So keep doing that. We've been getting some really good questions lately. So keep doing that. Safira, of course, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. This was a great interview, and we really enjoyed you.
Thank you. I enjoyed you guys too. Thank you guys for having me.
We look forward to getting our hats and the Gucci collection.
Yeah, because I told Kendra, I
everything.
said, look, if I don't get it within the next year, when my husband and I renew our vows, I will be wearing. And I'll say, maybe she can like make me something like really special.
Yeah.
And I could be the only one with it. And yeah, so I'm dreaming like all these.
Yes.
So I'll be hitting you up, you know.
Okay, well, bet.
In the meantime, I'll be saving up.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Safira.
Thank you. Bye,
everyone.
Bye,
Y'all have a
Devin.
good night.
Bye. Thank you all so much for joining us at the Real Mama Pod.
Yes, every Thursday night. Y'all could be anywhere.
But you're hanging out with us.
Yes, and we love it. So, friend, where can they find you?
They can find me anywhere they like. I'm on Instagram at KendraFerg _. And I'm also on Facebook, Kendra Ferguson.
Okay.
What about you?
And you can reach me at DevGrace _. Also, you can connect with us on Instagram, TikTok,
Pinterest, Twitter,
Facebook, Twitter, all of that at the Real Mama
Pod.
Yeah, so make sure you follow us. If you want to learn more about Kendra and I, you can check out our website where we have Mama merch. Hey, you can see our little sweatshirts.
Right. Yeah. We are wearing our Mama merch.
Yeah, we have sweatshirts, hats, necklaces. We also have Rich Auntie merch. So you can purchase that at www.therealmamapod.com. We're so corny.
I know. Until next time.